All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're looking at one of the absolute most incredible transformations in all of military aviation history. We are talking about the legendary A-10 Thunderbolt II, or as pretty much everyone affectionately calls it, the Warthog. But this isn't just your standard story about an airplane. It's really the story of a celebrated, deeply battle-scarred veteran undergoing this massive, completely digital resurrection to become a cutting-edge weapon for the modern age. Think about it for a second. How exactly does a relic from the 1970s, an era of pure analog dials and unguided dumb bombs, somehow survive the digital revolution to become the Pentagon's most lethal surgical weapon? It is a massive underdog story. We've got this bruiser of a machine staring down a totally new era of high-tech warfare, and instead of quietly heading off to the scrapyard, well, it leveled up. So let's dive into Act 1, the Analog Brawler. Introduced way back in 1977 as the U.S. Air Force's undisputed champion of close air support, the A-10 was this blue-collar tank hunter designed from the ground up for literally one highly destructive purpose. And its legendary analog brawn pretty much starts with just one number, 30 millimeters. You see, the plane was literally built around the GAU-8 Avenger. This is a 30-millimeter, hydraulically driven, 7-barrel Gatling-style autocannon. Its roar is, well, it's terrifying to enemies and deeply comforting to troops on the ground, mainly because it fires these depleted uranium rounds that chew right through heavy armor like it's tissue paper. But dishing out that kind of damage is really only half the job, right? You've got to be able to take a punch too. And the Warthog features this frankly unkillable design. The pilot basically sits inside a titanium-armored bathtub that can literally shrug off direct hits from 23-millimeter high-explosive anti-aircraft rounds. If the honeycomb panel airframe gets completely shredded, the plane just keeps flying. If the hydraulic flight systems get blown out, there are redundant backups, and actually there are even manual backups for the backups. Plus, they mounted those massive engines high and wide specifically to shield them from ground fire. In this analog, brute force approach, it worked flawlessly during its baptism by fire in the 1991 Gulf War. Just look at these numbers. Warthogs destroyed over 900 Iraqi tanks, 2,000 military vehicles, and 1,200 artillery pieces. It was devastatingly effective. But as the 21st century dawned, a totally new threat emerged, the digital battlespace. Suddenly, the analog systems that made the Warthog such a legend in the 70s and 90s were looking dangerously obsolete. Which brings us right into Act 2, the digital brain transplant. The contrast here is just night and day. We're going from the 1970s Warthog, which was filled with all these clunky analog dials, relying entirely on low-level brute force and dropping unguided dumb bombs, to the 2005 Precision Engagement Upgrade, or what we can call Warthog 2.0. All those dated gauges ripped out. They were replaced with a state-of-the-art glass cockpit featuring fully digital color multifunction displays that were compatible with night vision goggles. For the pilots, situational awareness just absolutely skyrocketed. But the real magic, the real turning point, happened a bit later in 2010 with Operational Flight Program Suite 8. Now, this was the ultimate brain transplant. It was this massive hardware and software overhaul of the aircraft's central computer. It took the Warthog from being just a really tough plane with a huge gun to a highly intelligent platform that was finally capable of fully integrating advanced, precision-guided, smart munitions. So how does an inelegant brawler actually become a surgical scalpel? Well, it breaks down like this. Step 1. They detect targets at massive standoff distances using advanced lightning or sniper targeting pods, and they can do this during the day, at night, or right through terrible weather. Step 2. That targeting data gets projected directly onto the pilot's high-tech helmet-mounted integrated targeting system visor. It's basically heads-up sci-fi tech. And Step 3. They deploy smart weapons, like GPS-guided JDAM bombs, to eliminate specific point targets with literal pinpoint accuracy, heavily minimizing collateral damage. Now, what's absolutely crucial to understand here is the connectivity. The A-10 basically became a highly connected node on the modern battlefield. We're talking about the integrated flight and fire control computer calculating crazy accurate ballistics. They're using the Saddle Secure Data Link system to constantly share tactical information and coordinate with ground forces. Oh, and the Rover system, that literally allows pilots to receive real-time video feeds directly from those troops on the ground. You combine all that with new GPS navigation, electronic countermeasure pods to jam surface-to-air threats, and secure radios, and you've got a completely transformed machine. All right, moving on to Act 3, the ultimate test. It was time to see how this digital resurrection actually held up in the chaos of the front lines. Looking at its 21st century deployments, the A-10 was thrown into some incredibly complex combat scenarios. In 2014, when ISIS was sweeping across Iraq and Syria, the A-10 deployed under Operation Inherent Resolve. Through 2017, they played a massive role in liberating dense urban centers like Mosul and Kobani. And even in 2018, they were out there saving lives against a resurgent Taliban in Afghanistan. These definitely weren't your traditional Cold War tank battles. These were precise, high-stakes, messy modern conflicts. Take the Battle of Mosul, for example. This is where those upgrades really proved their worth. Upgraded A-10s were able to loiter at low altitudes for extended periods. And instead of just dropping their bombs and rushing back to base, pilots actually used their new digital targeting pods and data links to provide overwatch. They were positively identifying and designating targets for Allied forces, block by block. That kind of precision in super dense urban warfare minimized civilian casualties in a way the 1970s A-10 simply couldn't have pulled off. But here's the thing, they never lost that crazy analog toughness. There's this incredible incident from 2018 in Afghanistan. A group of U.S. Special Forces was completely surrounded by insurgents. An A-10, call sign HOG-11, answers the distress call. Despite taking heavy anti-aircraft fire, the pilot just kept making multiple gun and bombing runs until the team could safely evacuate. And the official mission report noted something amazing. It said the damaged A-10 limped back to base, where ground crews counted over a dozen holes from enemy fire. The aircraft was repaired and returned to service within 24 hours. Digital brains meeting analog brawn. And that brings us to Act 4, surviving the chopping block. So despite this incredible combat record, the A-10 ran into a massive boardroom dogfight right in Washington, D.C. On one side, you had some Air Force leadership arguing the plane was just too old and too slow for a future battle space filled with advanced air defenses. They were pushing hard to retire it and replace it with fifth-generation stealth fighters like the F-35. On the flip side, you had ground troops, active-duty pilots, and their congressional advocates fighting back fiercely. Their argument, you simply cannot replace the long loiter time, the unique durability, and that massive gun of a dedicated close-air support platform. A sleek stealth fighter just can't get down in the weeds to support troops quite like the Warthog. Well, spoiler alert, the A-10 won its survival. The military launched what's called the ATTACK program, the A-10 Thunderbolt II Advanced Wing Continuation Kit, which is honestly a great acronym. This was a massive sustainment initiative that literally replaces the wings on the aging aircraft to make sure the fleet stays battle-ready well into the 2030s. Congress and the military ended up investing heavily to ensure this platform wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. And the modernization, it literally never stops. They are now adding smart bombs that track moving targets in zero visibility weather and laser JDAMs that can actually hit targets moving at up to 70 miles per hour. But the real twist, the part that perfectly illustrates this journey, is the addition of Link 16 data links. This 1970s relic will now be able to share real-time targeting data and seamlessly coordinate attacks directly with the very F-35 and F-22 stealth jets that were originally supposed to replace it. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question to chew on. What makes a weapon truly obsolete? Because as we've seen today, sometimes the ugly angel we actually need isn't necessarily the sleekest, fastest plane we might want. Through this relentless digital resurrection, the A-10 Thunderbolt II proved that with the right upgrades, a dedicated, purpose-built machine can adapt, survive, and absolutely dominate the modern battlefield for decades to come. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep asking questions and keep learning.